So in this video, I'm going to be going over the Chapter 7 practice test. My first question gives me a picture of a graph, and it asks me which equation represents it. So I am going to go ahead and go to Desmos and type in these 4 choices down below. Okay, so if I take a look at this, I can see the purple and the green graphs are going the opposite direction of what I want. I want them going like this. So I can immediately decide that the green and purple graphs are not the right answer. That just leaves me with the blue and the red graph. So if I take a look at my paper, I can see it's crossing at 2 on the x-axis and at 4 on my y-axis. If I go look at Desmos, this blue one is crossing at 2 and crossing at 4. So my answer is the blue equation. So that's the second one on my paper, which should be also the second one on your computer. This one wants me to find the domain, vertical asymptote, range, and horizontal asymptote. This one, remember, domain is the opposite of the denominator sign, so it's going to be all real numbers except 1, and then the vertical asymptote is going to be the same number, also the 1. My range is all of the numbers except my n number, so this is going to be 2, and that makes my horizontal asymptote also 2. Okay, so that works when I have a number at the end. When I don't have a number at the end, my domain is still, I'm going to take the denominator and set this equal to 0, not equal to 0. And then I would add 4 to both sides. This gets me x doesn't equal 4. So my domain is all real numbers except for 4. The vertical asymptote is x equals 4. To get my range, I want to take my coefficients in this fraction. So I have a 2 and this is a 1, and divide those. 2 divided by 1 just gets me 2, which is going to be the same for my answer for my horizontal asymptote. Okay. This one wants me to see which functions have a vertical asymptote of x equals 3, so I want to set the denominators equal to 0. So I'm going to do that. On the first one, I'm going to take x squared minus 9 equals 0. I'd add 9 to both sides. I get x squared equals 9, square root. That gets me x equals plus and minus 3. So this one did get me a 3. That one worked. I'm going to keep going. The second one, I have x minus 2 equals 0. I add 2 to both sides. I get x equals 2. That one's not right. The third one, I have 2x minus 6 equals 0. I add 6 to both sides. I get 2x equals 6. Divide both sides by 2. I get x equals 3. So this one works. And then my last one, I have x plus 2. If I subtract 2 from both sides, I get x equals negative 2. Not the number I wanted. Number 5 just wants me to find the domain, which is the excluded values. So what I want to do is I want to make sure all of my denominators are factored. So I have the first one is factored. It's x minus 3. The second one, I'm looking for what multiplies to 4, negative 4, and adds to 0. This is going to be positive and negative 2. So then I want to take each of my 3 numbers on the bottom and set them not equal to 0. Oops, I should set something. That x plus 2 doesn't equal 0, and x minus 2 doesn't. So on the first one, I add 3 to both sides. x doesn't equal 3. On the second one, I subtract 2 on both sides, x doesn't equal negative 2. And on the last one, I add 2, x can't equal 2. So those are the 3 numbers my domain can't be. Can't be positive 3, negative 2, or positive 2. Moving on, this one wants me to simplify and to write my answer for the numerator and denominator separately, and it doesn't want me to use spaces in my answer. So when I type this on the computer, I don't want to type in spaces. They have the same denominator, so I'm going to leave that alone. And then I'm going to combine like terms. I have 5x and 3x, and they're being added, so it gets me 8x. Then I have negative 3 and positive 3. Those cancel out, so I just have 8x over 16. If I go to simplify this further, the x's will cancel out, and both the top and bottom can divide by 8. So this is going to get me 1/2. So my answer is 1 over 2. I want to think of this kind of like a giant fraction. Okay, so same thing for number 7. I want to keep my denominator the same here because they are already the same. Then I have 3x minus 6 minus x plus 8. So I want to change this and change my signs that come after. So I have a positive 3x minus 1x is going to give me 2x. A negative 6 minus 8 is going to give me negative 14. If I try and factor this, this is going to give me 2x minus 7 over x plus 2. So I can just leave it as the 2x minus 14 over the x plus 2. This one again wants me to simplify, but they have different denominators. So I want to multiply by the factors that will turn them into the same denominator. The first one will get multiplied by x plus 2 over x plus 2. The second one gets multiplied by x over x. So on my first one, I want to distribute. I'm going to have 4 times x, which gets me 4x. 4 times 2, which gets me 8. And then it's over x times x plus 2. On the second one, I'm going to have just 5x. And this is also over x times x plus 2. Then I want to combine like terms. I have 4x and 5x being added together. That gets me 9x, and then plus the 8 over x times x plus 2. I can't factor the top anymore, so it's going to stay the 9x plus 8 over x times x plus 2. Remember, think of this like a giant fraction. Okay, number 9 wants me to simplify, so what I want to do is I just want to multiply straight across and then cancel out any repeated terms on the top and bottom. So I'm going to have 14. I have x cubed and x to the 5th, which is going to give me x to the 8th. I have y to the 4th and y squared. I add my exponents to get y to the 6th. Then on the bottom, I have that 2. I have an x, and then I have an exponent of 1 on that y. Y to the 7 plus y to the 1 is y to the 8th. Then I want to split this up into 3 separate fractions. So I'm going to have 14 over 2 times x to the 8 over x times y to the 6 over y to the 8. And then I want to simplify each of my fractions. 14 divided by 2 gets me 7. X to the 8 over x to the 1, I subtract my exponents, and I get x to the 7. Over here, I have y to the 6 over y to the 8th. I subtract my exponents, and this gets me negative 2. Remember, when I have a negative exponent, only the part with the negative exponent moves to the bottom and creates a fraction. So I'm going to have 7x to the 7 over y squared for my final answer. Also remember, when it moves to the bottom, it becomes positive. So this one wants me to simplify as well. And what I first want to do here is factor my denominator. I'm looking for what multiplies to negative 10 and adds up to negative 3. This is going to be, oh, these ones are multiplying. So I actually want to factor everything. zeros are still added. So on this one, I want to factor. I'm looking for what multiplies to negative 6 and adds to negative 1. This is going to be negative 3 and positive 2. It's still over x minus 3. The second fraction was x plus 4 over this one factors the denominator. I'm looking for what multiplies to negative 10 and adds up to negative 3. This is going to be negative 5 and positive 2. Then I want to look for what I can cancel out on the top and bottom. I can cancel out the x minus 3's and the x plus 2's. That just leaves me with x plus 4 over x plus 2. Remember, this is again like a giant fraction. Okay, moving on. This one is dividing, so I want to flip my fraction before I start simplifying. And when I flip my fraction, I also change it to multiplication. Now I want to go ahead and factor. So my numerator can stay the same as 5x. My denominator, both 3x and negative 12 can be divided by 3. So I get 3 on the outside. And then I divide each term by 3. So 3x divided by 3 gets me x. Negative 12 divided by 3 gets me 4. Then on the numerator of my second fraction, I have an 8 at the end, and I'm looking to multiply to positive 8 and add up to negative 6. This is going to be negative 2 and negative 4. Then on the bottom, I have x squared minus 2x. I can pull out an x. So I'm dividing each of those terms by an x. X squared divided by x gets me x. Negative 2x divided by x gets me negative 2. So again, I want to look for what I can cancel out. I can cancel out the x minus 2's, the x minus 4's, and the x's. So this just leaves me with 5 over 3, which this paper cuts off. So I would type that in as a 5 and a 3. Number 12 wants me to solve for x, so this one I need to cross multiply. What I want to go ahead and do here is take this and multiply it against that, and then multiply here and here. So I'm going to have 5 times x plus 3 equals 7 times x minus 1. Then I want to just distribute on both sides, so 5 times x gets me 5x, 5 times 3 gets me 15. Over here I have 7 times x, which gets me 7x. 7 times negative 1 gets me negative 7. Then I want to go ahead and get all of my terms over on the same side. So I want to subtract 5x. Gives me 15 on the left. 7 minus 5 gets me 2x. And then minus the 7. I want to add 7 to both sides. This gets me 22 equals 2x. Then I can divide both sides by 2. This gets me x equals 11. So I would type in 11 on that box. Okay, number 13 is the same. So I'm going to cross multiply. I have 2 times x minus 1 and 1 times x squared minus x. So on the left side I have 2 times x, which gets me 2x. 2 times negative 1 gets me negative 2. On the right I have 1 times x squared, gets me x squared. 1 times negative x gets me negative x. Then since this is a quadratic, I want all of my terms on the same side. So I'm going to start off by subtracting 2x on both sides. Gets me negative 2 equals x squared minus 3x. And then I would want to add 2 to both sides. Which gets me 0 equals x squared minus 3x plus 2. So I'm looking for what multiplies to positive 2 and adds up to negative 3. This is going to be negative 2 and negative 1. I want to take each of those and set them equal to 0. On the first one, I add 2 to both sides, I get x equals 2. On the second, I add 1 to both sides, I get x equals 1. Since I had a squared on the bottom, I want to go ahead and check my answers to make sure they work. So I'm going to start off by plugging in the 2. So I have 2 squared minus 2 on the first denominator and 2 minus 1 on the second. So when I simplify, it should give me the same number on both sides. So I have 2 on the top. On the bottom, 2 squared is 4 minus 2 equals 1 over 2 minus 1 is 1. On the left side, I have 4 minus 2, which gets me 2. 1 divided by 1 is 1. 2 divided by 1 is also 1. So this one works. Then if I check that 1, when I plug it in, I'm going to have 2 over 1 squared is 1, minus 1 is minus 1, and then over here I have 1 over 0. You can't have 0 on the denominator, so this one doesn't work. My only answer here is E2. Okay. This one wants me to solve. So I want to multiply by my LCD. What I'm first going to do is I'm going to factor this to see what I need to multiply. I'm looking for what multiplies to negative 1 and adds to 0. This is going to be positive 1 and negative 1. So what I'm going to multiply by is, since I already have an x plus 1 on the bottom of this first term, so I'm going to multiply the entire equation by this. So the x plus 1 times the x minus 1. I'm going to rewrite this out. So I have x plus 1 times x minus 1 times 4 x minus 1 over x plus 1 equals x minus 1 x plus 1 times 10 over, oops, that should be x squared minus 1 plus, and then the same thing, x plus 1, x minus 1 times 3. So if I take a look at my first part of the equation, the x plus 1's cancel out. So all I have to multiply is this x minus 1 and the 4x minus 1 together. X times 4x is 4x squared. X times negative 1 is negative x. Negative 1 times 4x is negative 4x. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. On the second fraction, remember I already decided x squared minus 1 is the same thing as x plus 1 times x minus 1. So this is going to cancel out. Which just leaves me with that 10. Over here, I am multiplying 3 by this, which we already said is the same thing as x squared minus 1. So I can take 3 times x squared, which gets me 3x squared. 3 times negative 1 gets me negative 3. Then I want to go ahead and simplify. So on my left side, I get 4x squared minus 5x plus 1. On the right, I have 10 minus 3, which will get me 7 plus 3x squared. Since it's quadratic, I want to go ahead and get all of my like terms on the same side. All of my terms, I meant. So I'm going to start by subtracting 3x squared on both sides. This gets me x squared minus 5x plus 1 equals 7. Then I want to go ahead and subtract 7 on both sides. This gets me x squared minus 5x minus 6 equals 0. I'm looking for what multiplies to negative 6 and adds to negative 5. This is negative 6 and positive 1. Then I want to go ahead and set my factors equal to 0. So I'm going to have x minus 6 equals 0, x plus 1 equals 0. This first one I add 6 to both sides, I get x equals 6. Second one I subtract 1, I get x equals negative 1. If I take a look at my first fraction, if I plug in negative 1 into that denominator, it is going to give me 0. So this one doesn't work. My only answer here is 6. Okay. This last one wants me to simplify, so I'm going to split it up into a bunch of fractions. I have 4, and then I'm going to put a placeholder 1 on the bottom, times x squared over x to the 6th, times y to the 5th over y to the 4th, times z over z squared. Then I want to simplify each of my fractions. 4 divided by 1 is 4. X squared minus x. Because it's a fraction, I'm going to subtract my exponents. So 2 minus 6 will get me negative 4. On the y's, I have 5 minus 4, which gets me 1. On the z's, I have 1 minus 2, which gets me negative 1. So these two with the negative exponents are going to go to a bottom of the fraction. So 4 and y stay on top. And then it's going to become x to the positive 4 and z to the positive 1, which we don't have to write. Then I just want to find the correct answer, which is my first choice.